it can be kind of a stumbling block at the end of the day for Jews to get hung up on the question of, does this person hate me, or are they killing me because I am a Jew? Or is it part of some other kind of war that they're waging against us? I think what we need to do is just say, who are the enemies of the Jews? And that can include people who only want to attack a certain portion of the Jews. Maybe they only want to attack the Jews in Israel. Maybe they only want to attack the Jews outside of Israel. Am Yisrael should be one responsible for the other. And, we can say anyone who wants to attack Jews, that they're the enemy of the Jews. And they've made themselves our enemy. And then we have ways we now have to deal with them according to our Torah that respond appropriately to that and say, okay, if you're our enemy, then we're going to fight you and we're going to win. And we're going to do it with whatever means at our disposal and all of that. And I think at the end of the day, that means that we need to let go of a mindset that prevailed through the second half of the 20th century and into the 21st century amongst Jews as a whole, that was really shaped by the events of World War II, where there was so much obsessive hatred of Jews for its own sake that motivated the Nazi ideology. And there was such a global repudiation of that ideology in the post-war period because of the defeat of Nazism, that it became very desirable to say, okay, well, let's always start our kind of process of political persuasion directed towards the rest of the world by proving to this country or to that country or to this leader or to that leader, that this enemy of ours who is attacking us, it's not just that they're attacking us, it's also that they're an anti-Semite. It's also that they actually just hate Jews and believe lots of crazy things about Jews that don't make sense, which is evidence that this is some kind of demented mania that has, no basis in reality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that really what that means is that this is a form of racism, and everyone knows that racism is so bad. And so, like, we're the victims of bigotry when this is happening, and that's what makes us right. All of that, in some ways, and in many cases, has turned out to be true. Like the enemies of Israel who've been attacking Israel for more than the last half century have, generally speaking, fit that whole description to some degree or another. And yet, I don't think we actually do ourselves a service by trying to make the argument in that way, because we start to create this kind of framework of conditionality where we're trying to persuade allies or other countries that it's okay that we're defending ourselves. And the way that we're making the case is kind of saying, because we've shown, Your Honor, that these people aren't just attacking us because of some kind of narrow self-interest of theirs, or because of some kind of idealism that they have that happens to conflict with our idealism, but because they have, some kind of racist dementia motivating them. That's what makes it okay for us to regard them as our enemy and to deal with them as such. That's not the way to make the case, right? Because we don't actually need to justify ourselves to the Americans, to the British, to the French, whatever, in those terms. We now have our own country. We now have our own army. We now are, as time goes on, more and more so, as a people as a whole, as a global community of co-religionists as a whole, we are rooted in and connected to Israel. And we understand that because of Israel, although not exclusively, the Jewish people are going to have enemies. They're going to be people who make war against us. And we, at this point, I think, need to let go of the question of why they're doing it and whether they hate us. And when this Jew got killed here, was it just because he was a Jew, or was it actually because he was in the crossfire of a war that's being waged for some more sort of practical purpose against the Jewish state, in this way or in that way? It doesn't matter. We just need to say this. These people have identified themselves as our enemies, so we're going to fight them and we're going to win. End of story.